Yeah, first question is, of course, is how and even more so why was Trialogos project started during times like we are having now last year?
Um, I don't know who wants to answer. I mean, I think it's actually the reason we had times like this, that this project finally came to life, because in the old world, we all had several things to do and were in several cities, me working all around Germany most of the time, Connie being in Italy and being on tour. And so everybody was really busy in the old life. So, and then came the whole Corona thing. And so this brought us some time, actually, to a lot of time to make music, to think about music, and to think about things we would like to do, maybe. And yeah.
Yeah, the thing is also, we know each other for a long time, actually. Like Kiki and Sikorman and myself, we know each other. I know Kiki since, I think, more than 20 years. I was thinking the other day. It's quite crazy if you think about that. So we played together many times with various projects, with Kiki and Sikorman's own project, with my stuff. So we shared the stage a few times and always had in mind to do something together, because we were working also on some albums. There were guests, so we always did something small, but we never had the time, like Tobias said, we never really had the time to get together and have enough time off touring and off theater work to really work on an album or to write music. And that's what Tobias said. In the pandemic, we all had a lot of more time on our hands to do that, which was a really good thing that happened in all this shit. For us.
Also, I think one of the initiation concert we played was a thing where we first were invited to play at the festival at the island of Rügen, like with our separate acts, but then came the pandemic and festival didn't happen. Instead, it was like an art installation, and we were asked to do something in the room and think about something, or Connie was asked to think about something, and then he asked us, and this is how the first Trialogos meeting came to life, was also due to the pandemic, because the festival didn't happen.
Absolutely. And maybe that's the case with, in the old days, you had your projects and you had your albums and everything was more defined. And in the first pandemic, exactly a year ago, Kiki and me already started playing free every night on the internet for 56 days. So just improvising. And then with Connie, like Kiki said, there was an improvisation as well, our meeting on the island. So yeah, I mean, it's always how you look on these things, you know, that happen, like the lockdown. You can, yeah, always two sides to every story, I guess. So, and the positive side is for us to experiment more and to improvise more and to, for the first time, get all the equipment working, which was actually also a big deal for me. When you're away so much, everything is in one room in cases, and now you had the time to finally set up everything. And yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's also interesting to say that we didn't really come up with the idea, okay, now we form a band that is called Trialogos. It was more like the session that Kiki mentioned that we did on the island. That was really improvised, because we had to invent something, because all the circumstances were quite complicated due to the pandemic. So we had to improvise a set together, and that worked. That was so interesting for all of us, that after that set, we actually decided, okay, maybe we can push this a little bit forward and go deeper into what we can do together, the three of us, but without really having in mind that this is a band, like a touring band, and we make an album and all this. It started very naive, actually, and then we had an offer from my label, actually, Exile on Mainstream, who heard the performance on the island, and he said, okay, if you guys ever decide to do something like an album, I will put it out. I will release that. I trust you. You can do whatever you want. So we had that label backing us up. And then when we met and made the session that now is the album, it felt really good. So actually the idea to make a real thing out of this happened in that session. When we noticed, okay, we really have an album here that is, in our opinion, different from everything that is out there, and it's worth to put out, and we have something to add to the whole discourse of music. And so that's actually when we decided, okay, we push this forward. And then also came the offer from the Roadburn Festival shortly after that. And that was the first moment when it was our first show actually that we ever played. And then there comes booking interest, and now it's actually a project that is that we want to bring on tour, like make a real thing out of this. That happened on improvisation without any planning, which is actually, at least for me, I think for the others too, is the beauty of this. It's a total open space from the beginning, and it's also meant to remain an open space in the continuation in what we do. Like regarding to improvisation, for instance, it's not meant to be a classical band touring thing. It's always going to be a surprise. We hope for ourselves and also for the people.
Yeah, what is the time frame? Kind of like when was like you mentioned the performance on the island, and I read somewhere that like the idea of everything first came in in Berlin in Zukunft am Ostkreuz. So how did it all get from like those early ideas to the stage where you knew that you have let's say here, where you have like an album coming next month?
I think the thing is, what's written there is only partly right. You know, we played, we shared the stage in Zukunft am Ostkreuz. That's totally right. So Conny played his show, and we played with Kiki, Bohemia, and Zickerman there. And that was after a long time we met again anyway, and then came the idea to play together in the summer, but not yet the improvisation, but just to share stage as well on this island concert which we mentioned. And that turned out the improvisation then. So I think it's rather the island show that
I mean, there was a subtle idea of doing something together at Zukunft.
Mhm.
Conny said we have to do something together, and we said, yeah, we have to do something, but it's like really subtle, like you always say stuff like that, you know, when we have time, we should really do something together. But actually we knew nobody would ever have time. And then this thing in Rügen happened on the island. It was beginning of August. And I think then it just happened because everything worked out so fine with Conny's label. Conny also made a big effort and got us some funding. So we had a little money to produce the record. And then it was just, we felt that the whole vibe and the energy seemed to be on our side. So when did we meet to record? I think beginning of October. And we met for 3 days. It was just actually like 1 week before everything went into lockdown again. And we were already feeling like something might happen. And we didn't really plan to do everything in 2 days or in 3 days. We actually wanted to take some time and find out what's going, but the world wasn't on our side. So it happened really quick, and perhaps that's what's
the magic of it.
What's a little bit the magic of the recording. And then it was there, was nothing to deny.
Yeah, we didn't really prepare anything. Like there was only the island show. There was 1 day, and the show in Berlin before, when at Zukunft, when we played together, and the 3 days. So actually it was only 5 days of creating things. And as Kiki said, the album was 3 days in October, and that was it basically. Because after that we could never really meet again, apart from the show that we played for Roadburn, because I live in Italy. So it's difficult. It's a bit difficult to get together, especially now. So we didn't really have the chance to do so much, which is really the cool thing, because sometimes it happens a lot when you have all the time on your hands that you want. Then it's also a lot easier to get lost. Like you do too much, or maybe you overthink everything, and we just didn't have that time. So it was just, that's it. And or it's great, or we just have 3 days of fun. And fortunately, it was great. So
Absolutely.
at least for us.
Yeah, totally. No, I mean, and the funny thing is, like, we really organized the whole thing. Meet 3 days in October, meet 3 days in November, book a studio for December. And so this whole was more like planned like a regular.
Yeah, that was the plan.
That was really a regular thing. And then we just, the first meeting was just, meet and greet and just try to find out some things. And in the end, it was like 4 hours recording. And you cut out 40 minutes. And we think, okay, it's actually an album. Wow. No, I mean,
we were also really lucky, I have to say. Like Tobias said in the beginning, there was a schedule, like the professional schedule, pre-production, then we go into studio with the producer and so on, which in the end we didn't do because we used only these 3 days. And we're lucky because Tobias is a great producer himself. Like it's actually like a studio, even if we recorded at their home. It's a great setup, and he's a great producer too. So all the production work was something that Tobias did, which is very lucky. Which we are very lucky to have that element in the project, because it's great. I didn't expect that, because it's the first time that I work with Tobias as a producer, even that I know him since a long time. But and I didn't know what to expect when we said, okay, you just produce that album. I mean, we don't have time. We can't do anything else. And I'm really very astonished about the result of this. Like, it's really great. I just didn't expect it to be that on that level. So that is good that we have these resources with Tobias, that he could just do it.
Yeah, but also, of course, the material was great. So, I mean, not to brag here too much about ourselves, but that's the good thing about this whole time issue is also that everything we played as a 3-piece. So basically, there are some overdubs on the records, but there are not that many overdubs, which is also unusual. If you produce a record, then you make sketches, and then now we have to set real drums, and then now we have to mic it properly, blah blah blah. And I think I realized, at least with some tracks on the Roadburn as well, it's really nice that we have the record like we played it, because now when we play it live, it's really, you don't have to think about so much how to do that live, like you then have with a long studio production normally, when you have like horns and I don't know, flutes and whatever.
What do you have?
Horns. Stickerman studio production. Horns, flutes, harps.
Nah, no, but that's also like
we can save this for the second album. I want horns.
When we come to Finland, we will need horns.
Yeah, you mentioned the cleansing drones for lockdown homes streams, and of course, for a band that was started kind of during the pandemic, your first festival was of course a streamed festival. You also talked about that Roadburn Redux festival too. So what are your thoughts on those kind of streaming concerts?
I think, like, especially for the Roadburn Festival, for me, that it was the first time that I saw a whole festival format like this that made really sense for me, because there were not a lot of live streams. I mean, there were some live streams, but most of the stuff was pre-produced. So you had really good sound quality. It was good to look at. And I really felt like being on a real festival for some days. I really got sucked in and hooked up on some bands I've never seen before. All of the Finnish bands were just great.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
The whole SWAT records chapter was really great. I enjoyed it a lot, but of course, for us, it was a big production hassle, I would say, because it was a huge production. We did it. We did it at the UT Konnewitz, which is a really nice venue, and big, an old cinema, and we had a big video and lighting team, and a lot of people had to work to make this look really good and sound really good. And it was really exhausting. I mean, we shot like 10 or 12 hours of playing the same songs over and over again. So of course, I would have preferred to play just live at the Roadburn Festival and go off the stage and get really drunk afterwards. Didn't happen this time.
But next year.
Hopefully. But I think for the Roadburn Redux was a really nice experience. And of course, we would love to have real festivals again. But this was for the first time for me a format where it really worked. You could watch it, you could listen, music was good, sound was good. I don't know, with the cleansing drones for lockdown homes was a really different thing for us, because it was a really personal kind of like a way to react to the circumstances. Was really in the beginning of the whole lockdown situation. We didn't know what to do. We were afraid what's going to happen, and we just didn't know how to deal with all of the stuff. And in the end, we realized we are musicians, and everything we can do is play music and perhaps help ourselves and help other people.
Yeah, I think that the cleansing drones was more like also a thing for ourselves, you know, to have a regular date on a day where you have to wear fresh clothing and you go there, and it was more like a kind of meditation for us, and hopefully then also for other people. So this was a different thing than from the like the Roadburn, which is like of course a year later everything things start changing again. Yeah, I mean, what I really miss, I have to say, of course, the audience, but I really miss volume. No, this is the one thing with a live concerts. I mean, it's really nice. We have a nice studio. You can make nice music here. It's all perfect. But to have things at a really high volume, I really miss that, apart from the people.
Of course, it also changed a lot how you yourself behave while doing music. I mean, we made that experience when we recorded the show at Ute Konnewitz, that we realized it's the first time we can be a little, and we weren't even really loud. We didn't put on the PA, but the whole feeling of, you know, your body is involved, you have some space, that's a completely different thing than playing at your home. I don't know.
Yeah.
Even the imagined audience changed the attitude towards the music, I think.
There was at Ute Konnewitz actually pretty interesting. Before the recording day of the material, in the evening we just played all songs after each other just to check out the song list, and there were just some 4 people there, I think, from the bar and some light from the light, and that already felt so good. I have to say, even like having 4 people listening and playing in a row, like playing, I really, this was the first time I really missed playing live, actually. Funny.
Yeah. In general, because you asked about streaming in general, how maybe that is perceived. For me, it's a bit difficult. I did this last year actually at the Roadburn too, when there was the first lockdown, and they asked me to play a little acoustic set. They asked a few people actually, and that was really like the streaming show in the classical sense. Like I set up my laptop because I don't have any equipment actually. I'm quite old school with that, so I just acoustic guitar and the laptop, and that was then straight into the internet. And that was somehow helpful for me, just to get out some emotion that you cannot really channel. But it's also, when it's over, it leaves you in a strange sort of limbo, because you give out all this energy because you're actually singing or playing for people, because it's you have this understanding that somebody's listening. But what is missing, for at least for me, or maybe for the performer, is that you don't really get any feedback back. like maybe from comments, but this is really important, I think, for a performer too, to have an interaction with the audience. And that's what makes streaming in general difficult for me, even if I appreciate that many people did this, because it helps a lot of people too. Also people who are not musicians, who can just listen to something or see that that life goes on. So I think it's very important to have streaming concerts, but I really hope that it's going to be over soon. Not because they're bad, but because it's just not, music is not supposed to be, I think, to be transmitted digitally. It's a life experience with real people.
I have to say that I had the exact, or not the exact, but quite the same feeling with our Roadburn show, what you described. Like, even if it was recorded, but we watched it, it was our debut performance, and then it was over and you were at home like, yeah, what now? Felt pretty empty and pretty lost.
That's actually also a thing from last year. You know, we had this cleansing drones thing. Then I did alone something like that in summer again. But all the time we thought, we don't play Sicker Man and Kiki Bohemia songs like our normal program, because that didn't feel useful for some reason. At least not for us ourselves, because, you know, we normally in our old program, we also have like songs, we sing them, but then they end, and then what, you know? Then, okay, I ended this song now, no feedback in any sense. Now I start the next one. And this is, I think, also why we came up with the long, epic, improvisational, droney, ambient stuff, because this way you can shut that out a little bit, that there's no audience, you know, because you play for half an hour anyway. So it's you're totally into the music itself. So